Hi, my name is Kirk Stimpert. I've been teaching chemistry and physics here at Pewaukee High School for 24 years. This is my 24th year here. And yeah, it's been all physics for the past 4 years, but the first 20 were a mix of chem and physics.
All right, Kirk, tell us what excited you and concerned you the most as you transitioned to a collaborative relationship with common assessment design and instruction.
Well, I'd been collaborating in chemistry for a number of years, but I had never collaborated in physics before. And I don't know how common I am in this, but I do not like change. I fight against it. Maybe I don't, that's too harsh of a word. I resist it. In order for me to be at my best, I've got to feel comfortable. And to be comfortable, I've got to be familiar. And to be familiar with anything, I need to have done it a number of times in a row to make some mistakes, and that's not unique. That's like anybody else. So to collaborate with someone and take on somebody's new ideas in physics, which I'd never collaborated with anyone before in my life, filled me with revulsion and fear initially. But the end experience of it couldn't have been further from the truth. It was eye-opening. I had to check my ego at the door. I had to relinquish some things that I'd held on to very tightly for a great number of years. But I think I saw it on a poster somewhere, just because you've been doing something for a really long time doesn't mean it's not incredibly stupid. And I'm not saying that I was doing anything stupid, but I was doing some things inefficiently, I was doing some things ineffectively, and I was blissfully unaware as to how and why and in what ways they were ineffective. And there was no way for me to figure that out had I not been collaborating with the person that I did.
So talk a little bit about that, how your teaching changed and due to those collaborative relationships, and then what about your assessments in terms of the development of those common assessments? What changed, what did you learn, what's better as a result of that?
Well, on paper, I was extra nervous about this collaboration because the style of teaching of this woman with whom I collaborated could not have been a whole lot more different from my own. If I could have handpicked someone to collaborate with, it would have been someone very similar to me in style and thought process. And in retrospect, that's the exact opposite of what you need, I think, in a collaborative team. You need contrasting styles, you need contrasting opinions, and that forced me to look at what I was doing and why I was doing it in a totally different light. And I had to check my ego at the door. There was no ego involved in any of this because we were united together with a common goal of bringing out the very best in student achievement. And when you can separate yourself from that and become part of that goal, that's when the magic happens. That's when you can produce things that are greater than the sum of their parts. That happened with my instruction. That happened with our assessments. They looked totally different after we collaborated from how I would have predicted them to be or how I envisioned them to be. But they were effective. They painted a more clear picture as to what students were learning, as to how effective our instruction was, and it forced us to do exactly what assessments are supposed to do. Revisit what our instruction was doing, how we were going about what we were doing. And we could look at it and go, okay, they didn't do that well on this. I think I've got a fix for that, and my style might be unique to that. Or her style might have had a fix for that. And at the end of the day, I grew so much more in the 3 or 4 years that I spent working with her than I had in any of the years prior to that in my teaching career.
So you've already touched on this a little bit, but talk to us about how you believe that student learning was directly impacted by your collaborative relationship and the development of those common assessments.
Okay. I'm not sure if this is going to give you what you want, but we can revisit it. But at the same time, the reason I'm scowling a little bit, is that it's difficult for me to separate out from that process exactly what the collaboration did, because at the same time, we were switching to standards-based grading. So the first year or two that we spent collaborating wasn't a standards-based system. But once we did switch to that, standards-based grading forces you to collaborate on a much deeper level. it forces you to not look at what you're doing, but what you're doing in terms of assigning points to this or that, or how long the test is, or is it too hard or is it too easy. You're looking at how faithful to the standard is this assessment. And as a secondary point, how long it is, or how easy or how hard it is. And standards-based grading allows you to have questions that might really stretch kids, but without a point assignment to it, you aren't married to that question. You can throw this out, you can bring something else in and fine-tune it and bring it to something that really measures where students are at. And also going along with that, because really separate from standards-based grading is grading for learning, and having a relearn redo process and collaborating on that and what that looks like. So it's impossible for me to look at how much just the collaboration piece did without also looking at grading for learning and standards-based grading. Those three things together are really where huge.
So it's fair to
made.
say that collaboration and common assessment design was step one in a process that has led to other things which has impacted student learning. So to that end, final thought here, if there are teachers in the room right now who are resistant and reluctant to go down this path, what would you say to put their concerns at ease?
Any school worth the dirt on which it's built is going to have a group of professionals where every single member has something to offer a collaborative process. And if it's not happening, either a person doesn't feel safe to open up and offer what they bring to the table, or someone's mind is closed to receiving what that person has to offer. So there's some intellectual inertia that goes along with this. Not everybody likes to play in a communal sandbox. I get it. I'm from that camp. I had difficulty with it myself. But at its worst, even if it doesn't go well, and it's not going to go great every time. Not every collaborative process is going to be, unicorns and rainbows. It's going to be difficult. It's going to take some effort on everybody's part. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you become with it, and the more synergistic it becomes. And there's growth to be had. And on its worst day, collaboration is no worse than working all by yourself in a vacuum. You still end up with the same assessment, and you're like, I don't want to do what that guy's doing. I'm just going to do what I've been doing. Okay, well, you're not any worse off. But having a common assessment where the goal is not feel comfortable, not do this because it's what I've been doing, but do it because it's what's best for kids, how can you not get behind that?